Okay, Stephen, so it's Ian Wilson here. I'm just going to create a quick video to show you some applications of QGIS. Okay, so I just want to search for your school. Okay, let's see. There we go. Okay, so I'm just in Google Earth at the moment. So what I'm doing is I'm just getting a place mark. I see I've already placed one there. So I'm getting a place mark for your school. Alright, so I can minimize this. And then I'm going to take this back into QGIS. So here we are. I'm going to save this as a KML. It's currently a KMZ. There it is there. I'm going to replace it. Okay, so we're done with Google Earth, and now I can open up QGIS. Okay, so this is QGIS. It's the latest release of QGIS called Las Palomas, and it's comparable with a lot of the Esri software, the proprietary stuff, but I quite like it for obvious reasons, that it's open source and I can share it and do quite a bit of training in it. So that's why I like it and use it quite a lot. So I'm going to add a new vector file. Let's go and browse for that KML that I just saved. There it is there. Okay, so it's added a new vector point, and there it is. I'm just going to add some other base data. And I'm going to be adding shapefiles. So these are all the various file types that you can add to QGIS, and there are quite a few here that aren't necessarily recognized by some of the other proprietary stuff, just because of sharing issues. They don't want to be able to share with everyone, because then they're worried that people are going to stop buying their software. But QGIS, being open source, generally shares with everyone, so it's quite an advantage. Okay, I'm going to add the suburbs for Cape Town. Let's just zoom out slightly here. I'm going to put the point layer for the school on top. Zoom out a bit. There we go. Okay, you can kind of see we're in the right area now. There's the harbour, and then there's your school. So let's add some other data. We're going to add some roads. Okay, if we go back to transport, I think it's my transport folder. These are all shapefiles which I've collected over the years. And then you would do a similar sort of thing. You'd gradually want to build up some kind of spatial database. There's lots of stuff which is freely available, so I can share quite a lot of the stuff with you anyway. Okay, so if I just go and change some layers here, this is the styling. So I just right click on the layers in the table of contents here, and I go to properties. And then there's a style tab, and that's just to change the color, and more of a cartographic tool than anything. And then there's a whole lot of other options here for the layer as well, which I mean you would obviously get into at some point in the tutorials. Okay, okay, green. Now I actually want to make this transparent, so I'm going to make this no brush. Make the outline width 2 should be alright. Change this color to a purple. And then make it wide. Okay, I'm going to do just a general thing for the roads here. I want to choose an existing road symbology. Change this down to 1.5. Make this, I think we can actually leave it that color. That's quite nice. And there's a couple tricks I've learned over the years with the QGIS. If you enable symbol levels, it allows segments next to each other to bleed into each other, so that it looks like one continuous road as opposed to a whole of separate segments. I mean, that's just something we'll get to and go through at some point. Okay, so let's do a quick label of these. I'm going to label on the roads, and I want to show labels for this layer using one of the columns from our attribute table, and it is segment name. And that's a buffer. It just creates a little halo around the text, and you can see in the background it's starting to add. I want to place them curved and on the line, not above the line. maybe change the size a bit because they're a little big at the moment. Change that down to 7. And then there's one other little trick I like to do is with regards to rendering. I merge connected lines so that a name isn't repeated 100 times just because there's, for instance, this road, New Church, is made up of a whole lot of little segments. So every segment would get labeled, but if we merge connected lines, it just labels it once. We say apply. Okay, and now we can. Alright, now one of the cool things is you can stream background data in using a plugin. Now what a plugin is like most softwares, open source in particular, independent developers are able to develop plugins if they quite like the software but they want to give it more functionality. They can program a plugin, and what QGIS does is if they like a plugin that someone's created, they start packaging it with the program. And there's a plugin here called Open Layers, which is a streaming layer which streams the online content from Google and some of the other service providers in. Okay, so this is already added, so I can go in here and say, okay, so here we go. This is a new button or a new drop-down menu which has been added, and we're going to add the Google satellite imagery. Add it to the bottom here. Okay, this little, if you look at the bottom right hand corner of your screen here, there's a little code which has been added, and this, if I just clicked on that, it takes me directly to CRS, which is for the project. It's the coordinate reference system, and this option you always want to tick, which is on the fly transformation, and then you would choose your projection or your coordinate reference system here, and we are working with pseudo Mercator, and that is a default coordinate reference system which is chosen whenever you add something from these open layers, because that is the projection that they use. So that's fine, we're happy with that. So now what I want to do is maybe just change the style of this little point for your school. So if we go to, actually we're going to go to library, and there's one here. Okay, we can choose that one. Okay, we're not going to worry with that. We're going to just scooch down here and choose that one. Say apply. Okay, there it is. And we can zoom in a little closer. And even tighter. And similarly, so that is not a shapefile yet. That is a KML, which is keyhole markup language, which we've exported from Google Google Earth, which I showed you when we started this little exercise. So I just want to quickly do a label for this one as well. Use the name. Also draw a text buffer. I like buffers. I'm just going to offset it slightly. Where's my offsetting option here? Okay, that's fine. Let's try this. Apply. Okay, this is sitting right on top of the point, which I'm not happy with, but we can worry about that later. There's a little option to, generally there should be an option to offset it from the point, but we're not going to worry about that now. I'm going to leave that as is. Okay, and so I'll just show you, okay, so that's existing layers that I assume that you might have, for instance, but you can create new layers from scratch, and we're going to add a new layer now. So if we add a layer or a feature, we're going to choose the type of vector that is going to be point, line, or polygon. I want to choose it as a polygon. I'm going to choose a coordinate reference system, and I want to make sure it's the same as the actual project, and then this is where you would add the fields. Okay, add to list. Okay, those are all text strings. We'll say okay, and then we're going to give it a name, and I want to put it somewhere where I know it's not going to be a problem. So let's call this school features. Okay, and there we see it's added a new layer to our table of contents. If we quickly look at this, we can see that those are the two columns that I've added, but there's no data in it because we haven't captured any features yet. So let's capture some features now, and I want to start editing. So I click on this little pen here, and then it gives me the option to add a new feature, and then all I do is just start clicking with my mouse, start digitizing. This is why I prefer to use a mouse when I do GIS as opposed to a keypad on a laptop. And the ID is 0, the name is field, and type is sport, let's say. I mean, these are just examples, really. Okay, so there's our new feature added. We're still in an editing session, so we just save that, and we say stop editing, and then you can likewise start querying and editing this field, or this feature. So I'm just going to make it a reddish color so that it stands out, and then I've changed it to transparent so we can see through it. There we go. And okay, so this field I can query or run extra spatial analysis on. So for now, I'm just going to select my little information tool, make sure the feature is selected in the table of contents, select the feature, and then it pops up with information about it. So there's a quick window into the data in the attribute table, and then there's also some derived information here which the program automatically works out on its own. So we can work out the perimeter of the area that we've captured, the actual square meterage in hectares, etc., etc. And so that is a quick idea of some of the stuff you can do, and it's obviously quite involved. For instance, there's a whole lot of vector tools here as well, and CAD tools, and really, I mean, it will be fine for kids to learn this program because it's got all the additional options that you would need as a consultant, but you only use the ones that you need. So it doesn't need to be as complicated if you're doing it for instance grade 8s or grade 9s. You know, you can adjust the course to suit whoever the students are. Okay, and that's something I do. I do quite a bit of create quite a few tutorials and try and make it specific and relevant to the client that I'm working with. Okay, so I'll just show you a little example of what you might use in terms of geometry tools. Let's say we want to put a little buffer around this field now. We're going to say a fixed buffer and a distance of how many meters? 50 meters around the school. And we need to choose the right feature to buffer, and we're choosing the school features. And this is all good. We're going to create a temporary layer. We're going to run that. Okay, so there's a 50-meter buffer around the school field. We pop that down there, and we just query this to make sure that it did the right thing. We can use our little ruler, and we move from the edge outwards. There you can see that's 50 meters. So I mean that's one of the things you might be able to do in the field. This might be useful if you want to find out how many trees of a certain species are within a certain distance of your water course. You would buffer the water course and then be able to select out the trees that fall inside that buffer, and then calculate, for instance, what it's going to take to move alien vegetation, etc. So I mean the uses for this kind of thing are quite involved, and a great software tool, and I think it should be suitable to use and to present to school kids, definitely. So yeah, hopefully I can get hold of you. We can maybe sit down and chat about this further. Okay, until that time, chat later. Cheers.